What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monty Sports Show. It is November 1st, 2021. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for watching yesterday. We had 35 states tune into the full Monty Sports Show. Again, we go live every Sunday at 11 a.m. where we'll preview what week it is in the NFL. Crazy week this week. And then we go Monday and we recap. And I want to thank you all for listening and watching yesterday. The comments were phenomenal. We had actor Alex Scooby from the King of Queens on talking Miami Dolphins. We had George Lopez on. And of course, John Meyer talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. We have the best guests all across the country. And let me introduce my co-host, Brad Ward. And we're going to bring on, how are you, Brad?
I'm excellent, Monty. Glad to be with you tonight.
Glad to have you as always. And we're going to bring on former NFL player, CBS Fox broadcaster Ron Pitts. Ron, thanks so much for joining the full Monty Sports Show with Brad and Monty. How are you tonight?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. You know, it's crazy because before the show, and we'll get into a lot, but so many injuries. You know, my mom asked me a couple of weeks ago, Ron, and as someone who played in the league a long time ago, not that long ago, but things have changed so much over the last 7 to 10 years. And she said, why are so many players getting injured? And my first response was, well, there's more plays, right? I mean, people are going with the hurry-up offense, higher scoring, more possessions. Are you shocked to see, like, just how many Derrick Henry goes down, Jameis Winston? Are you shocked at all this?
You know, I've been saying that for a few years, especially in the beginning of the season. Guys coming out of training camp and 1 or 2 weeks into the season, they're hurt. So that's kind of been a trend lately. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, why that is. I tend to think the amount of training they do in the off season is a contributing factor. You know, guys, everyone has a trainer now. You know, a personal trainer. Everyone has a place they go to. You know, whether it's a facility or a group, then they do their own personal thing. It's not just what you do with the team. When I was playing, you did your stuff with the team, and you know they'd send you home for the off season, and they'd give you a book, and you studied the book, and you followed the book as your workout. But now everybody has their own personal guy or gal that they use. So I just wonder sometimes if they're not doing a little too much. But
yeah, I mean, one of the things I watched the other week, I watched a video of J.J. Watt working out.
Yeah.
And as someone who trained and someone who coached, I say to myself, man, he's doing all this power stuff. When does his body get to heal? Is that what you're saying? Like there's just not enough rest?
Yeah, I don't. I think there's a tendency to go overboard with it. I do, because you know, like people say, they're bigger, stronger, faster, and all that, and that's true. And I also think there's a tendency to do more. And remember, they can't do that much or as much as we used to do in training camp. So there might be a tendency to say, okay, hey, I got to get it all in now, because when I get back, we're not going to do any of this. So if I want to, you know, if I want to get bigger here or stronger there or faster in this area, then I got to do it all on my own.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
interesting because I was actually going to ask the kind of the opposite way. Like training camp is completely different now, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't touch anybody. You know, it's very limited to the amount of time you can actually be on the field. Could that be a cause of it? You know, I think it was somebody made a comment the other day, maybe Brian Westbrook, or maybe made the comment that like his body was so callous from training camp that, you know, compared to today where they're basically in bubble wrap till week 1.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's part of it also. So now it's the shock factor. So they get into camp, and since they don't hit that much and do that much in camp, physical wise, contact wise, now you get into the season and it's full go. You know, that takes a toll on your body too. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
You know, it's amazing because we know this a few years ago with the Wildcat, and then Chip Kelly came in with the no huddle, had success, whether you know limited or not. The NFL is a copycat league. A few years ago, Sean McVay didn't play any starters in training camp, his main guys, and they went, I think, 5 or 6-0. So now we see this in basketball. You know, Greg Popovich started doing that, resting players, so everyone does this. But my thing is the body's got to get used to getting hit. So was it almost a bad thing that Sean McVay rested his players and they went 5-0 because other coaches were like, hey, if he's resting and they're winning, we can too?
Yeah, everyone has their own theory on that, and that's always been a discussion. Here's the thing: you don't have 16 games anymore. Okay, now you've got 17 games. So to me, I would rest my guys as long as I could, as often as I could, when I could. And if that meant not playing them during training camp, fine. But now there is a point where you got to play guys enough, to get used to, like you say, the pounding. And really, it's more timing, especially if you got a new quarterback, especially if you got some rookies, right? Especially if you got a new offensive line. You need timing, and not practice speed timing, game speed timing. And you can only get that or close to that in preseason games. And now we're talking 3 preseason games. Pretty soon, it's going to be 2, maybe even 1. So all that's going to be harder to do.
Ron, getting compliments on your background. Who set that up? Can you explain some of the things you have right behind you? Because it is on fire.
Yeah, I don't even know what I have back there, man. I'm so old now. That's been up there so long. I think I
I
got
see
some
the
helmets.
UCLA football.
Yeah, I got some helmets there. Got a football there. This right here. Let me see if I can do this. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm on Zoom, so everything's in reverse. This right here. That's 3 of the greatest Green Bay Packers ever play. That's 26 Herb Adderley. That's 24 Willie Wood. In the middle, that's my father. That's Elijah Pitts in the middle,
That's
22.
awesome. That is awesome. Great
Very
background.
cool.
Okay, let's get to more questions here. So during your playing career, 66 games under your belt, who was the toughest quarterback, wide receiver that you had to go up against?
Oh man, a lot of them, a lot of good ones out there. Uh, Dan Marino. Dan was tough. Dan had that quick release, so you couldn't break on the football. You couldn't get an indicator. So by the time it came out, it was going. Dan was there. John Elway. John Elway could throw the ball anywhere on the field. It could be 70 yards down the field, 80 yards down the field. He could find you anywhere. Receiver wise, there's guys that everyone talks about Jerry, and Jerry was good, and Anthony Carter, guys like that, they were good. But it's some of the other guys that no one really talks about that much. Art Monk, remember
Yeah.
Art Monk with the
Washington,
Redskins?
yeah.
Yeah, the Redskins back then.
Yeah.
He could not only block you, but he could also run by you. He was a great route runner. Stanley Morgan was really
Patriots.
good.
Yeah, very
Really
nice.
good too. Those 2 guys, see, those guys were technical. If you didn't have good technique, they were going to embarrass you, and they knew where you were weak at. So let's say if you were a corner and you had a habit of lunging with your left hand to get a jam, well, they would attack and slap that left hand. They'd work that half of your body the entire game. Just little stuff like that. Or if you had a tendency to spread out too wide with your feet, when you're in bump and run, then they would do things to get you spread out and then take off on you.
I always say it's so amazing. People talk about, Bill Walsh and all these Bill Parcells, what Bill Belichick has done. But one
Yeah.
of the things that Joe Gibbs, he won a Super Bowl with 3 different quarterbacks. Like you
Yeah.
don't see that. Like that is insane that he
Yeah.
was such a great coach. No matter who the quarterback was, they were very good.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to try to name them. So let's see. You had Theismann, right?
Yep.
Then you had Rippon,
Yep.
and then you had Doug Williams. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
That's hard to do, and that speaks volumes to him as a coach. I mean, he was really good. He knew all sides of the ball. And when we talk about that old Washington team, I think about the Hogs and the counter trade. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind. Counter trade. Counter trade was a counter run game, inside run game, 2 down blocks, 2 guys coming across, and you could really hear it. You could hear the sound if you listen close enough. Be bam, bam, and those were the guys getting ear hole shots, and then the back is through the hole. Whether it's Rigo or somebody like that. But that's just good old school blue collar football right there, right? That's under the center. We're going to run the ball. We're going to tell you where we're going to run the ball, and we're going to run it right now. And
That's
can you
awesome.
stop it?
Yeah, that's one of
That-
the things. That's one of the things like about that
There
team.
you go.
There
Yeah.
it is, man. They were just a classic, blue collar team.
That's great, man. You guys threw that's great.
Hey, Ron, I'm really curious about this.
Yeah,
The game has changed so much as far as the rules aspect. The NFL wants to see the big play, the offensive play,
yeah,
and so much of the rules have gone against the defense. Literally, like every rule in place now is to benefit the offense.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that in general? And is there any way to kind of even things out, or a rule that you would do away with if you could?
It's interesting you bring that up because who was that? Tom Brady weeks ago came out and said, the rules now punish the defense for offensive mistakes, and there is some truth to that, right? There is definitely some truth to that. I just I just don't want them to change the culture of the game. I'm all for protecting guys. I'm all for the defenseless player thing to a degree, but I think they get stuck. They get stuck when a runner is running full speed. A guy like, for example, I'm not saying this is him, but for example, a Derrick Henry, he's running at you full speed. And let's say he gets low and ducks his head. Well, you've been taught all your life to get low. And
Yeah.
sometimes the offensive player can duck his head into your head. He initiates the helmet to helmet, but the defensive player gets flagged. I have a problem with that. Some of the roughing the passers. I saw one. Gosh, did I see one
I
last
saw
night?
one
or
with
this week?
Kyler Murray the other day. Kyler
Oh
Murray a
my
few weeks ago.
gosh! Yeah, the one kind of it's just they have completely lost control of that one. I understand what the impetus of the rule is. I get it. We want to keep the quarterbacks healthy because scoring makes the league go. That makes ratings. That's where the money is. I get that, but we're starting to miss on some things to the point where it's almost like if you said in baseball, okay, once you have two strikes on a hitter, you can no longer throw the curveball or the slider.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
once you've got a standing eight on your opponent in boxing, you can no longer throw the overhand right or the hook or the knockout shot. I mean, you just can't. You got to be careful. You can't change the game. And then there's things where I wish they would put in rules like when a receiver jumps in midair, as a defender, I shouldn't be able to cut his legs out from under him because now that's defenseless to me.
Right.
He's in midair. He's trying to make a catch. I get that. But now if I cut his legs, he's going to land right on his neck head first.
Yeah.
Now you talk about trying to protect guys from head and neck injuries. So
Well,
I think
that's a great point because Tom
yeah,
Brady brought this up and people were shocked that he was saying, "Hey, let the defenders." He said it's almost like when he started playing, the quarterback would have to protect the receiver going over the middle.
that's
Now
right.
the defender has to worry about that. And Rob Gronkowski made a great point too. He goes, "I'd rather someone hit me up high than take my knee out and tear my ACL."
See, great point. Great point. You said it right there. So what do you want me to take? Because I'm going to take my shot at something. Okay, I'm either going up high, not at his head, because I know you're going to flag me, but I'm going to get up in that area. And if you say I can't do that, okay, then I'm going to cut it.
Yeah.
And like Rob Gronkowski says, so now you end my career in one play.
Yeah.
And I'm not minimizing head issues and head injuries, but we've got to look at it from a different angle. I think we got to be more grounded with what this is, and I don't think we protect the defensive player enough too, because sometimes
Yeah.
a guy comes in trying not to lower his head at all, and he exposes his chest, but the offensive player puts his helmet right in his chest, blows him up. So
Yeah.
that's
And
a
I
problem
and,
too.
and I see a lot of times. I mean, they just started, but I've seen over the last couple of years, Derrick Henry's he smacks the guy in the helmet. He'll
Yeah.
grab a face mask, for the stiff arm, so my question to you is: if I'm in high school, if I'm in college, I'm playing wide receiver, I'm playing quarterback. I want no part of defense.
I can see that. Yeah, that's right, and that's kind of the byproduct of what the league has set forth. They're creating an offensive culture. It's what this is turning into. It's turned into like 7-on-7,
Or
Yeah.
Canadian
right?
Football League, where
It
they're
is.
throwing 40, 50
Yeah,
times a game.
yeah.
Andrea brings up a great point here. What do you feel about the new taunting rules? Because I think it's a little overblown. I understand you don't want kids But come on, man, this is a. I mean, Dikembe Mutombo used to wave his finger when he blocked a shot at the player, and then they
Right.
stopped it and said, "Now you just have to do it to the crowd." So how do you feel about the taunting rules?
I just wish they would settle on something and stick with it.
Yeah.
Remember when they said, okay, you can't dance in the end zone, no, no choreographed routines in the end zone. Then a couple of years later, they realized that fans were turned off from that because they liked some of that from the players. They said, okay, go ahead and party in the end zone. So I'm a little confused. Like, okay, so what can I do? Now the taunting got out of control. So then they dial that back. I just think it's consistency. If you just say, okay, here's what we're going to let you do, and we're going to stick to it, and then that's it. And I'm not for guys that just go out of their way and almost get a delay of game penalty to taunt. I get that, but that's a gray area, man, because taunting is one of those things that will always evolve. Guys will figure it's like dances. People will figure out new ways to taunt until they determine it's not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like some guys, it's like one of those things where you know it when you see it, right? Like you know it when you see like somebody excessively taunt. But if a guy makes a great catch and stands up and screams, now that's taunting. I mean, that's just a motion of the game, and I feel like that's too much.
Yeah, they just don't want anything directed right at your opponent, the individual opponent. And I get that, and I understand that. I really do, because to a degree, that starts to make the game look bush league after a while. But like I said, I think it's about consistency. Every crew's got to call it the same.
Forgive me for the picture not fitting the screen, but I used to love the Fun Bunch back in the day. And Joe, one of our fans, is going crazy now because he's a Washington football fan. But I used to love that celebration, the Fun Bunch.
Yeah, and that's funny, man. That picture there. That's Dennis Thurman, the safety for the Cowboys in there. He's trying to break up.
He's trying to break it up. Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Ron, quick question, and I'll let Monty take back over here. Who would you say is your favorite defensive player to watch right now in the NFL?
There's a lot of good ones out there. Oh man. Wow.
I mean, as a defensive player, are you looking at someone like Derwin James or T.J. Watt, or are you amazed by like a Kyler Murray who just seems like he's playing on Madden the way he runs and throws?
Well, defensively, I like watching Aaron Donald.
No.
Aaron Donald is something else, man. He's at another level. And now the Rams bring in Von Miller.
Oh my goodness!
And it remains to be seen how healthy Von can stay and be, and I'm sure they'll have him on a pitch count. But yeah, that guy, he's unstoppable. We've seen good defensive linemen, right, throughout the history of the league. We've seen some really good ones, but this guy, he seems to be at another level. So
and he gets double teamed every game. I mean, every game,
triple
your whole
team.
defense. Yeah, I mean, the whole defense is the whole offense is geared to stop him, and he still can't be stopped.
That's right. No, he can't be stopped there. So moving back, if I had to pick a linebacker, I like Devin White there with Tampa Bay. I like him. He's a little sawed-off guy, but he'll hit you, and he talks a lot, and he can run. He's fun to watch.
I'll tell you, I watched the Dallas game last night, and Micah Parsons is. I mean, he goes sideline. Yeah. That guy's motor is unbelievable for a rookie.
Yeah, no, he is, without a doubt. There's so many guys out there I love to watch. Guy that's hurt right now, but I've always liked his game is Jair Alexander with Green Bay, cornerback. I mean, he's got great technique. He's compact. He's explosive. He's kind of, I think, what Stephon Gilmore was a little earlier in his career. Jair is like that now. I'm just saddened that he's not out there more.
I look at the Rams and I say to myself, what are they doing? How are they paying all these people? They must have a genius in their front office with the salary cap. And you just look at their defense now. Yeah. You have Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. It's like pick your poison. And their offense is phenomenal. But what the Rams are doing with the salary cap, I'm like, why can't other teams do this? Why can't
I left Jalen Ramsey out of there. I meant to say, Jalen Ramsey's another guy I like watching because he's a perfect mix of corner man-to-man cover guy, but intimidation. And he's a lot more physical than people think.
Yeah, yeah, he
I think
doesn't get
people
pushed
tend
around at
to,
all.
yeah, people tend to think, okay, yeah, he's a shutdown corner. Okay, I'll give you that, but he's also a knockout corner as well. He can play all aspects of the run game. Offensively, there's so many good players offensively right now. It's good to see Dak come back and have the year he's having. For a rookie, I love Jamar Chase. He's really been something special. They had a tough loss yesterday, but Burrow is comfortable with him. Obviously, you can see that. Who else? DK Metcalf is interesting.
He's
We
such
were
a freak of
talking about
nature, that guy, man.
yeah,
How
we were
about him
talking.
and AJ Brown at Ole Miss, and they were terrible? How did they not score 50 points a game with those two guys?
I don't know. I guess they found a system. But the only thing that bothers me with DK, tends to like to get into fights and stuff like that. And as a former corner, man, that irks me a little bit. I start thinking about, okay, here's a punch I would take on him. But no, he's a big guy that could run, and he's physical. And Pete Carroll knows he's like their signature of that team. That's what he wants his team to be looked at. A dominating, feared, playmaking, exciting, impactful type guy.
And I will say this. I mean, wide receivers are considered to be very emotional, very sort of like diva-like. They need constant praise. But DK Metcalf, there are times I think it was last year, where against Arizona, he ran all the way across the field, and I think he caught
Yeah,
Buda Baker. I mean, the
yeah,
physical, if he could just, not take the dumb taunting penalties or get into fights, I mean, this guy he
yeah.
has all the tools to be all world.
Yeah, that's the only problem with him right now. He can't fall into the prima donna mindset, which is easy to do because of what we're talking about. All the rules favor you as an offensive player, as a receiver. So you really can't get hit. You can't get hit and hurt like you could get hit when guys were in the middle, like Jack Tatum, George Atkinson, Ronnie Lott, Dennis Smith, Lewis Oliver, Chuck Cecil, Doug Plank. I mean, I could go on and on. The great safeties that have played this game. Back then, the middle of the field was sacred territory.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a reason that the Raiders never had the dig route, the deep end route, even in their playbook, because in
Yeah.
practice, Jack Tatum used to knock guys out in there. But that wasn't just for intimidation or for effect. It was for intimidation. It was to make a point. Listen, you don't come in here. The middle of the field is ours. We don't want you to have an easy throw. We don't want you to move the ball that efficiently. We want you to be afraid, and your receivers to be afraid when you come in here. But now all that's changed. And you can see safeties coming down the pipe sometime on a post or a dig, and they got a knockout shot, but you can see them pull off at the last second and slip a
Hesitant.
shoulder in there. And a lot of that's dangerous for the defender.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens is receivers feel invincible, and they should.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. All right, speaking about offense, obviously I'm an Oregon Duck guy. I watched Justin Herbert, and one of the things I said is Mario Cristobal kept limiting this guy. So if I had to pick one quarterback, I had him winning Rookie of the Year last year, not because he went to Oregon, just because he's a more athletic Big Ben. That's what I looked at him at. He's
Mhm.
6'5", 230. So when you look at someone like him, if you had to start a franchise with a quarterback under 25, would you take him? Would you take someone else? Am I crazy for thinking that this guy is going to be a Pro Bowler for 10 years?
Now, they're in a little bit of a rough stretch right now.
Yeah.
Dropped a couple games, but all that to the side, he's exactly what you want. This kid coming out, he had every box checked as far as what you look for your quarterback. He had the intelligence. He's like an engineering major, off the chain. The kid does not party, doesn't mess around with social media, if you can believe
Nothing.
that one.
He's the
none of that.
quietest superstar in LA.
Right. Now he's, and you almost think, okay, that's wrong. There's another game here, but no, that's really him, and that's it's a tribute to his parents and how he was raised. But his mindset is about one thing: football, and he's capable of doing it physically. So it's just a matter of that team getting enough around him. He can do a lot. And yesterday he went up against the Grandmaster, Bill Belichick, and Belichick does and did to
He
him what he
does.
always does to young quarterbacks. He shows them something they've never seen before, no matter how much film they've watched. He shows it to them in a different way from what they're used to seeing it, and he makes them play with the opposite hand, meaning he makes them do things that they never had to do before.
He takes
And
away their strength.
takes away their strength. Yeah,
Yeah.
he threw 2 interceptions, a 66 quarterback rating.
Yeah, terrible.
Terrible.
So,
but
it was an
he's a smart
improvement.
kid.
It was an improvement because last year they lost 45-0. So it was an improvement.
Yeah,
And I will say this.
that's eating at him. I can guarantee you. He's a perfectionist. He's a guy that will stay in the building all day and night, watch film, and they'll figure it out. And the coaches are going to have to help him figure it out.
Well, I said this a few weeks ago, and people kind of criticized me on social media. I said Justin Herbert reminds me a lot of the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee because he doesn't care about the fame. He's not on social media. He just lives for basketball, and
Yeah.
Justin Herbert just wants to play football. And God bless him because I lived out in LA. There's so many distractions there, but it's almost like he doesn't care about all that stuff.
Yeah, and they need to. There's a lot around him that isn't there yet. They need to build that team. That team's got a ways to go defensively. They really do. So it's not all him. They've gotten better in some areas there. I like their left tackle Slater. I think he's really solid.
I think he went like 270 snaps without giving a sack up until recently.
Up until right,
Yeah.
and that's gonna happen in this league. You know that, but. They're better there. The receiving core gets it done if they can stay healthy.
Mike Williams, he's matured and he's phenomenal now.
Yeah, the move I didn't understand though was getting rid of the tight end Hunter Henry, and he got hurt last weekend. But
especially in the red zone.
Yeah, you're right. I just felt that was such a good fit for the team, and I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out, at the end of the season. But that one bothered me. And running back now, they're doing it by committee, which is fine. But I wouldn't be surprised if they made some changes there and went different directions. We'll see. But it's all about winning. I like Brandon Staley. I like what Brandon Staley did with the Rams. That's a little different being the head coach, and I think he's finding that out too.
Hunter Henry had 3 straight games with the Patriots where he had a touchdown. So I agree with you there. Especially a young quarterback, you want that security blanket over the middle or in the red zone. I agree with you. I was so disappointed when they let him go. Okay, Brad's going to ask you a question right now, and I know it's going to hurt him because he's a Browns guy. So go ahead, Brad.
Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Bill Belichick as far as they called him the Grand Master, but who else besides Belichick do you really respect as far as coaching goes, in-game adjustments, and their overall approach? Who else do you really like right now?
Andy Reid. Andy Reid, I think, has always been an excellent coach in that vein. He went through the tough times there in Philadelphia, and it looked like they were never going to get to the big game. But
yeah,
I think if you look at especially some of the Andy Reid of late, and you look at him, he's pretty darn good in game. Obviously, Belichick is good. I think Sean McVay is really becoming an excellent play caller and has become an excellent play caller.
And anytime he has a lead at halftime, I think he's now 43-0 at halftime with the lead. So most coaches, I used to get so upset because I'm a Jet fan watching Rex Ryan. They'd be up at halftime, they'd make no adjustments. Sean McVay, even when they're winning, is making adjustments.
No, that's true. That's true. So he's figured out, and again, he went up against Bill Belichick in that Super Bowl, and he learned some things, and he admitted that. I like Mike Vrabel at Tennessee. He takes some of the Patriot stuff, and he uses his football players. He always keeps it football. He keeps his best 11 football players on the field, not his fastest 11, strongest 11, things like that. So he does that well. Mike McCarthy in Dallas I think he's figured something out. I think
their defensive coordinator has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah. Well, without question, right? But I think he's figured out, and he understands what this team is and how he's got to coach this team now. And Kellen Moore has helped him. They either he settled Kellen Moore down or the defense has settled Kellen Moore down. I don't know what it is, but they look different. I like Matt Rule. Something about Matt Rule I like a lot. It doesn't always show in the win column. It showed this weekend, but I think he's got a pulse on the team, and guys believe him. You know, the guys have to believe you as a coach. They got to feel you. They got to know you're real. And so I think he's found a way to get to that.
I think what was so interesting about Matt Rule, and I think he kind of set the tone when he came in there. He's known as an offensive guy, and he did something that has never been done in the history of the NFL. He took all his first 7 draft picks and drafted one side of the ball, defense. Yeah. So he kind of showed his team, the guys who didn't know him, hey, we're building this team to be, totally complete, not just, run up and down the field and score.
No, that's true. Right. And that was the right thing for his team. Okay, he put his stamp on it, and that's an example of what I like about him. Sean Payton. Sean Payton, I left him at the end there for a purpose. Sean Payton, to me, gets it. I mean, he took my podcast partner, Mike Martz, and he called him up like 2 weeks into camp and said, Mike, I need you to come down here and look at these quarterbacks and spend some time with the quarterbacks and work with each one of them, and then tell me what you think. Now think about it. This is a guy who's already got a ring, but he's calling another guy who's got a ring to say, hey, come show me something. So see, he never stops learning. He never stops understanding. That's like out of the Nick Saban rule of football. That's why Nick Saban brings so many guys into Alabama all the time. You'll see a guy come in.
They're always former coaches, head coaches.
Right. Guy got fired here.
He's got someone who's an offensive line coach right now who was a head coach of the NFL. Right.
And he brought O'Brien back down there for a little bit, and he helps him out. So Sean Payton, to me, he has it. He's an NFL Super Bowl winning coach. He understands both sides of the ball. He can call plays and be the OC during a game and also be the head coach, which is not as easy as people think. And at the same time, he can feel the pace and the tempo of the game and get into the defensive coordinator's ear if he has to. See, that none of that stuff is easy. It might be in your contract and you might be getting paid to do it, but it's a lot harder than people think.
So I was complimenting the Washington football team before, but now I'm going to call them out because they once had on their staff think about the 3 assistants they had. They had Sean McVay. They had Kyle Shanahan. They had my boy in Green Bay, and they went with Gruden as the coach.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur. Yeah. No, they had a group of guys, and all those guys from that tree went on, and that's good. But I think at the end of the day now, before your tree really gets talked about, you have to win one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And now, so Sean McVay out here in L.A., everyone keeps saying this is their year, and it just may be, boy, because it just seems like the way the schedule's popping, they're picking up people. It feels like it's their year, so that may happen. Shanahan up in San Francisco, they got close, but haven't won it, right? And same thing with Green Bay. They're in this NFC Championship game year after year, and this is probably going to be the last year you have Aaron Rodgers. So it's getting.
Well, I will say this: people always talk about the Belichick tree, the Andy Reid tree. I talk about the Shanahan tree. The Shanahan tree is pretty impressive with everyone he's coached, who he's influenced, the zone run blocking scheme that he had. Shanahan's mark on the NFL is going to be here for another decade at least, not more.
Yeah. Now you're talking about the dad now, Mike Shanahan.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, yes. Right. Yeah, I just didn't want to confuse it. So Mike Shanahan, that's absolutely right. Mike Shanahan took the West Coast offense out there with San Francisco and he tweaked it. Okay, because when he was the offensive coordinator there, he tweaked it when he went to Denver. So we're going to do all the West Coast stuff, the horizontal passing game. We're going to stretch the field horizontally, but we're going to add some run to it. They made the run game important again. And they did it with Alex Gibbs. Remember the inside zone running plays? They had like 3 different guys, maybe 4, rush for 1,000 yards. Orlando Scary did it. Terrell Davis
Terrell
did it.
Davis was amazing.
Yeah, and there's a couple other guys that and one other guy I know got close, and so that's how you make Hall of Fames right there. That's called making an impact in the league when you can do stuff like that. And if it weren't for Mike Shanahan, I don't know if John Elway would have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
because
a great
they
point.
kept trying to build a team on him, and which is fine, but you can't do it without some semblance of a run game. And then when they finally brought the run game emphasis in there, took it out of John's hands just a little bit, they won 2 in a row just like that.
And I think the last time a leading rusher in the NFL won a Super Bowl, I think it was Terrell Davis.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's I think that's it. All right, Brad. I know you don't want to ask this question. You want me to ask it?
Which one are you talking? You want me to ask about Joe Burrow?
Yes.
Okay. So Monte wants me to ask you: are you surprised at how good the Bengals are this year, and how quickly under Joe Burrow they've gotten better?
This question would be easier to answer if they had won yesterday.
I know.
Right.
They were on such a
roll. In New York City.
Yeah.
They were on such a roll. I mean, they were sick. I mean, they were. I'm looking at their numbers here. 5-3. They would have been 6-3, and just, oh gosh. But anyway, no. Listen, they had to get their offensive line together. Okay, and until they got that offensive line together, it was going to be more trouble for the quarterback. I hate to see him go out with injury last year, but that was a direct result of only one thing: a poor offensive line. So they're a lot better there this year. You got a playmaker involved. Now they got to get everything else involved in the team. Got to get the defense going, a couple other areas, and they had a shot to be pretty good. But still, even with the loss, 5-3, they're sitting right there now, atop that division, right?
I talk about this all the time with quarterbacks, how the second year, the game starts to slow down. But to me, Burrow hasn't missed a beat. Before he got hurt, people were like, wow, he has no one around him and he's making plays. And now it doesn't look like the game is too fast for him. It's like he never had that learning curve. He's making plays that you see a veteran do. He's looking off the safety. He's audibling at the line. I mean, this guy's so smart as well as super athletic, and the players love this kid.
Yeah, I mean, remember his story. Started off, there at Ohio State, didn't work out. Ends up, going to another school, going down to LSU, and so, he's a tough guy mentally, okay, and he's not about him. It's about us, and he enjoys the game, and he's there for all the right stuff. So he's the right pick. Now the question is, can the organization do something that's troubled them for many years? Can they keep spending money? Keep spending money, bringing in big-time players, bringing in the right players, pay for it. Don't get tight with the wallet, because that has hurt that organization year after year after year. You got a good thing going on. Now keep building on it.
I'm shocked because when they drafted Chase, I knew he was a phenomenal talent, but I was like, they need offensive line help. But it turned out that this guy's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, he's my pick. I think the guy's done a great job, but that's what one guy can do for you. Just one guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron, give us your mid-season prediction for the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship.
Mid-season prediction for the AFC Championship and
Can
NFC
I say
Championship.
something here? Maybe because Brad's going to call me out here. So
Okay.
all year I've been saying there's a reason why Aaron Rodgers has complained. Because when you look at Arizona and their plethora of wide receivers, you look at Tom Brady throwing to his fifth, fourth option. You look at what they did in Buffalo getting Stephon Diggs. So all season I'm like, they can't compete with those high-powered offenses throwing the ball. But after what I saw on Thursday night, they don't need to, because this is the most physical team I've ever seen the Packers have in the last 10 years under Aaron Rodgers. They can run the ball 35 times and beat those teams.
Yeah, okay, so I guess I have to start with the NFC. That's what you want me to do, right?
Well, I want to know if you agree with that assessment. The Packers are not in trouble. I kept saying they're in trouble. They don't have enough weapons. Although I would like them to get Brandon Cooks from Houston here at the trading deadline.
Yeah. Well, First of all, it all starts and ends with Aaron Rodgers, and it starts and ends with your quarterback just about anywhere. So that's number one. I don't think he's going to be back there next year, so they better have one heck of a plan B. But yeah, right now Green Bay feels pretty good. Okay, what they did against Arizona was pretty amazing. They came out without all their weapons, but a lot of that started with Aaron, and he kept it going. And Arizona, I think Arizona let their guard down a little bit, and that hurt them in that game. So I like
Ron,
Green
they're
Bay. I don't think
7-0.
anyone.
They're 7-0 without
Yeah,
Devontae Adams. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah, no one's going to give them a run. I don't believe in that division. Had Minnesota won that game last night, I think Minnesota now would have started to feel okay. Let's take a run at Green Bay, but that didn't happen. Dallas is going to be in this picture in the end, and then the Rams are going to be there as well. The Rams got to deal with Arizona, but you see what they did now, bringing in Von Miller. That's another statement. They said, okay, we're going to beef up so big on defense that we're going to make Kyler Murray have to stay in the pocket and throw, which is what Green Bay did to him the other night, and that might have made a big difference. So in the NFC, I'm going to go with Dallas is going to be there, and I'm going to go with the Rams being there for the NFC Championship.
Can you explain how the Packers are 7-0 without Devontae Adams? That's a stat that makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
is
you
that
can.
Matt LaFleur? Is that Matt LaFleur just adjusting game to game?
The quarterback. It's the quarterback. That's why. See, the quarterback can make you win any way you need to. You want to win this by dink and dunking to the tight end, and I know Tanyan's out now, and that's a big blow for. That's a huge blow, and that's why I can't put Green Bay in there right now. But yeah, he can, and they can run the ball. I thought the other day they ran the ball really well, very solid. So I like AJ Dillon as a kind of their toughest back right now. You know, no offense to the other back, but I like AJ Dillon a lot.
Especially in the cold weather in Lambeau.
Yeah, Jones is good. Jones is solid, but AJ Dillon gives you something that everyone else doesn't have. So
yeah,
you want AFC? You want AFC?
Yeah.
All right. So when I look at the AFC, things just changed like this morning, literally, because I would have said Tennessee is going to end up playing Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. But now they're saying that Derrick Henry may be gone for the year. If Derrick Henry is gone for the year, that changes everything. Okay? And I'm going to go back to two teams that I think in the end are going to be there. Baltimore, I think they're going to get their stuff back together because they still got Lamar, they still got a run game, they still got a solid defense, and Buffalo. Buffalo still is probably the best overall team in the AFC when and if Tennessee doesn't have Derrick Henry. Okay, that's my qualifier on that. I think Buffalo is probably the best overall option. And Josh Allen is something special. He's right up there. All he has to do is win a Super Bowl, and he'll go into that group of great quarterbacks because he can do it all. He can throw it, and he can run it better than most can throw it.
You know, it's amazing because at Wyoming, one of the biggest things I said about him, he played in a terrible conference and he completed 56% of his passes. But the coaching staff in Buffalo has really, and this is why I said Zach Wilson was going to be terrible because the Jets are so dysfunctional that they don't. But how Allen has matured year, every year, and same with Lamar Jackson, how they've evolved and improved their game. Both of these guys have improved. They listened to the critics. They worked in the offseason, and they've gotten better every year.
Yeah, and Buffalo's defense is rock solid. Don't forget that. See, that's another part of the equation. What kind of defense does this quarterback have? And I look at that. And some teams, their defenses are struggling. They started out maybe good, and now they're starting to get exposed, or they started out bad, and they're starting to get a little bit better. But I don't see anyone else in the picture. Cincinnati could have something to say about this in the end, but they're young. You know, at some point, people are going to figure out the second-year man to the rookie combination there, and they're going to shut that down. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the defense. So I want to like Pittsburgh. but they're just not consistent enough. But I love their toughness. I love how they attack things and they play every week. But in the end, I just don't think they're better than those two teams, Buffalo and Baltimore.
Talking with Ron Pitts and Brad Ward here on the Full Monty Sports Show. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Ron, I'm going to ask you one more NFL question, then we'll flip it to Brad. Then we'll talk a little UCLA. So Andrea brings up a good point here. I think this is a different Packer team. I think they got beat up by San Francisco 2 years ago, and Matt LaFleur said we need to be more physical. So I don't think it's going to be the same old Packers at the end of the year this year. I think they're much more physical. They used to be a finesse team. They're not anymore.
Well, I think what you're talking about is defensively. They went through a phase there with Clay Matthews. Remember when he's on that team there? You know, they were rock solid. That was our identity. And then they lost that. You know, Clay moved on. They had some changes. And so they've been trying to find their way a little bit, I think, defensively. They're getting better. But remember, Aaron Rodgers puts you in a position defensively to do a lot. He never has short drives. He's going to convert third down. Your defense isn't going to be on the field like 1, 2, 3 and out all the time. So they're going to be rested, and you're probably going to play with points at your back, right? You're going to play with a 10-point lead. So that means the other team can't sit in the run game and just pound. They got to start throwing the ball. So all that stuff is important.
And how many times do we see Aaron Rodgers at a crucial moment get someone jumped off sides, or he sees them running off the field and he'll call the play and it's an offside, he gets a free play. It's almost like the game's in slow motion.
Yeah, I don't know. If I were Green Bay, I'd do just about whatever I had to keep him there. And
I would trade Jordan Love and say we made a mistake.
You're right. And I know they got to think about the future, though. I don't know if I trade Jordan. I would just say, hey, look, you're here as long as you want to be here. Now, if all the junk doesn't go on in the front office, you know, in the offseason where he felt like they didn't consult with him as much as maybe they should have about this and that, and maybe not 100% upfront about the Jordan Love thing. If all that doesn't go on, maybe we're not even having this conversation about Aaron. Maybe he's fine and he's going to say, okay, I'll play 3 more and then I'm done, period. But that hasn't been the conversation. He sounds like he wants to move on, but we'll see. Winning
cures
changes a lot of minds real fast.
Exactly. All right, Brad, you got one more NFL question before we talk UCLA football?
Yeah, real quickly. I don't want to take much time here, but I was just interested, Ron, in when you played as a defensive back. What was your favorite scheme to play in defensively? What did you enjoy the most? You know, we're seeing so much zone in the NFL now, where it's like, keep it in front of you, make everybody matriculate the ball down the field. Playing a lot of that funnel stuff. Did you play a lot of man-to-man? And who was your favorite coordinator to play under along with that scheme?
Oh man, I had some really good ones. Boy, I think my favorite coach in NFL. And I had a lot of good ones. Now I played for Hank Bulla there in Green Bay. Played for Walt Corey in Buffalo. All right, played for a lot of good ones. I think Dick Duran was my favorite. Dick Duran,
really?
He later became a defensive coordinator, but he was our defensive back coach early. And the best thing about Dick is he would always tell you, listen, I'm not on the field. I don't see the game like you see it because I'm in the press box. So the first thing he'd ask you when you made a mistake, he said, what did you see?
Yeah.
He wouldn't just start screaming on you. Some guys, that's how they operate, and that's fine. But he would always say, because he had that player thing in him. And he never wanted to be screamed at. So he would say, what'd you see? What did it look like? I know it looks different down there than it is up here, blah, blah. And
when he was coaching you, did you know that, wow, this guy's going to be a coordinator someday? Like, he's that good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Nah, he's so smart. A cerebral guy. And he knew exactly where to put the pieces. It's one thing to have all the pieces, but now some people don't know where to put each piece. He knew where to put each piece. What'd you ask me, man? I'm getting old here. What was that first question about?
Your favorite defense to play, man to man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, so when I came in the league, if you couldn't play press coverage, bump and run, as we used to call it, then you might as well pack your stuff and go home. No, guys would call you out in the meeting. They would stop the tape if you were playing man to man from like 7 yards off, and they would say, "What are you scared?" they would turn around and look at you. Are you scared? Oh, listen, you would get beat all day long by the best receiver on any team before you backed off and let him catch a 5-yard hitch or slant or something like that. That's just the way it was. So, yeah, my favorite coverage was probably press with a safety in the middle, because I could be real aggressive on anything outside, knowing I had help inside. And so that was fun. And 2-man was fun too, and some of the trap concepts we did too. I like cover 2 was bigger back then. We used to play a lot of cover 2, like the '86 Giants. With LT and Collins, Mark Collins, and who else? Gary Reasons.
Pepper
That
Johnson,
defense,
Banks.
they used to play cover 2. Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator. There's probably over 100 variations of cover 2.
Yeah,
and I swear they played 70 of them. Yeah, and they played them to the hilt. And that's the one coverage that has been lost in today's game. And people try to say, well, it's because, now you can't really jam the way you could. And yeah, you can. The 5-yard rule was in when I was playing. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
The 5-yard rule was in. You can beat people up for 5 yards. And then it's, we don't do this. We want to get our head around, see the quarterback. No. You got to disrupt timing. That's what's a lost art right now is cover 2 not being played as much as it used to be.
Disrupt timing. Great point.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron, I'm going to put a little UCLA background up, just to make you feel a little bit more at home. I want to talk about the basketball team and the football team. We got a couple minutes left here.
Yeah.
I started watching Oregon football because I thought Chip Kelly was a genius. He was 33, I think 33-3 or 33-4 in the Pac-12. It's been a slow process, but I'm finally seeing some improvement. Are you happy with the year-to-year progress? Or are you like, you know what, maybe it's not working out?
Well, boy, that's a tough question after a loss, no matter
that's true.
who it is. I think there have been really good moments, and then there's been some growing pains, definitely. The LSU game was great. That was beyond great. I mean, that was a sight to behold, really. And then they get in situations, where they, like this past weekend, they went up and played a really, really motivated and focused Utah team and just got beat. They didn't stop the run. They ran the ball a lot. And so it's a little of that. It's a little up and then down and then up and then down. So, I'm looking forward to when they finally get that consistency, which is the hardest thing to get at that level. You got to remember, these are young players. And they're college players, and they're excited week to week. But with that excitement means sometimes they play different week to week too. And so I think everybody, coaches included, they all have to learn consistency is how you get the championships. Not monumental wins one week and then huge letdowns the next week. It's staying consistent the whole way.
So the jury's still out for you. You like some of the things, you don't like other things.
Yeah, well, it's just you can't argue with record. Again, it's consistency. You're not gonna get to that next level championship wise. That's where everybody wants to go. Everybody wants to go to BCS. Everybody wants to go to a Rose Bowl. But I look back on the things that we did when I was playing under Terry Donahue. We weren't the best team in the country by far. I don't even know if we were the best team in the division. We'd lose literally all of our non-conference games. But for some reason, we knew how to win the division games, the conference games, I should say. And it's strange because my son and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about early in the season. I think Arizona State got off to a real good start, and they had beaten UCLA. And I said, just wait now. In the Pac-12, for some reason, it has a way of evening itself out, and they'll trip, and then another team will trip, and then somebody who you guys don't think is very good right now will come back and beat you. All right, like no one was really talking about Utah in the beginning of the season, and now here we go. There's Utah.
No, it's funny because Mac Brown had a run where he couldn't beat Oklahoma, so they let him go. Les Miles had a run for like 5 years. More LSU players were drafted in the first 2 rounds than Alabama, but he lost 4 straight. So if you don't win those division games, people are going to be like, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
All right, final question for you here. Mick Cronin comes to UCLA. Second year last year, shocked the world. had a Final Four run. I thought he was a great hire. Was so happy for UCLA to get him. Do you follow the basketball program, and what do you like about what he did last year?
Are you kidding me? How could you not follow that run? So after the Pac-12 tournament, which UCLA got stamped out of pretty fast, yeah, the expectations were really low because they had a kind of average, a very average regular season, and I didn't expect much in the tournament. And then when they took off like they did, it was just a thing to behold, and to get that close to go into the final game, it was a heartbreak. So the question now I have is, now the target's on your back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. It's not like it was before. And that's why sometimes high ratings scare me if I'm not sure that team is really that team that their number says they are. So we're going to find out fast. The good news is they've got everybody back. You know, Juzang is back. The big boy in the middle's back. They've got, like, we did what Florida and Kentucky and Duke and all those other teams do. We got all the guys to come back somehow.
You got all the guys to come back. Yeah. That's great. And I remember I was watching this game with my dad, and we were both rooting for Gonzaga, but we felt so bad when he hits that shot to win it. I felt so bad for UCLA fans.
You know, finally Westwood woke up because my son was down there and they were having a big party, and you know, it reminded everyone of the old days, the 70s and 60s of Wooden era, and when they were winning championships. So from that standpoint and a season ticket sales standpoint, it's really good. Now they got to show that wasn't a fluke. And again, the hardest thing is when you got to play at that championship level every single day, every single week. Now you know why those guys at Kentucky and like I say, Duke and even the Villanovas have those great programs over and over and over, because man, they got to play their best basketball every week.
You know, it's amazing because I said this going into the final game. I said, I don't think Gonzaga has anything left because UCLA was just physically pounding them all game, and they go to the championship game, and they look like they had no third or fourth gear.
Yeah, this is going to sound like sour grapes, but I have to bring it up because my UCLA brethren would be upset if I didn't. There were a couple shady calls there at the end, okay? Yeah, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But I can't take anything away from the shot. The shot at the end was a thing that you'll always remember, and it is what it is, right? As they say, it is what it is.
As a former player and coach, I always say this: you always remember the losses more than the wins.
You sure do.
Yeah,
I don't know why that is. I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling. Yeah.
All right, Brent, anything else you want to say to Ron before we let him go?
No, just thank you, Ron. It's fantastic. Awesome listening to you, man. You're an outstanding guest. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
How can we follow? How can we support you?
Oh, just, hey, follow the podcast, Run It Again podcast. I'm there with Mike Martz, the coach. And Coach, he had the nerve to bring on his Super Bowl trophy because I had brought on some of my motorcycle trophies, right? I used to race motorcycles back in the day, and I thought I was pretty cool. And then he brought on his Super Bowl trophy, and he picked up the trophy with his Super Bowl ring. So I guess, okay, no more trophies. That's it. I get your point.
Ron, I'll end with this, an embarrassing story. I had Gus Farad on 2 weeks ago, and Gus Farad has a record that will never be broken. He threw a 99-yard touchdown pass. Only 13 players have done it. So he's in the Hall of Fame, his jersey, the football, and the wide receiver's jersey. Wow. And I said, well, I share something with you because I have a record that will never be broken as well. And he's like, oh, what was that? And it's a true story. I bowled a 300 game in Wii Bowling. So, you know, like, you remember the Wii Bowling game? And everyone makes fun of me for it, but it'll never be broken.
Wii Bowling. Hey.
300. I was perfect for one day, Ron. Perfect
300 is 300, no matter where it's at.
Brad's looking at me like, you're embarrassing yourself right now. All right, Fantastic. Ron, thanks so much. Really appreciate you coming on and taking the time out.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Wow, Brad. Seriously.
Good stuff from Ron.
I mean, talk about knowing his stuff, huh? I mean, entertaining, great stories. Awesome job. Okay, Brad, we got about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, so I'm going to give that to you.
Sure.
And talk about the Browns. What went wrong?
Do I have to?
Yes, you do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I mean, it was really ugly, and people are not happy around here right now. 4-4. A lot of people jumping off the bandwagon. Monty. You know,
You're
Baker
not.
played.
You tweeted out, I'm not giving up on
I'm
this team.
not. I'm not. I've spent too many years where they were out of it already at this point to bail on a team at 4-4, Monty. If that makes any sense.
Greg, can I
Um,
just say this though? One of the
yeah.
things that really bothers me about watching them is I don't know what their identity on offense is anymore. It's like they have
What do you
no
mean?
confidence. They have no confidence in throwing. If you're not going to use Odell Beckham Jr., trade him. Do like what is happening with their offense?
Well, their identity on offense is the run game, and they don't have, a large portion of their offensive line, or they lost him again. He came back for a game, and now Conklin's out, and Chubb was clearly not healthy, right?
I'm surprised they played him. I'm surprised they played him. It's a long
Yeah,
season.
he looked really bad, and he had one explosive run and then looked poor afterwards. They did not look good, and Baker's playing hurt. Everybody's playing hurt. And when Baker's playing hurt, and he didn't even play that poorly, I was an advocate of playing, not playing him and letting him sit and playing Case Keenum again after my show last week. Because if he can't make the elite throws, and he's not making the elite throws, Monty, he's not, and he's getting to the top of his drop, and he won't let the ball go to Odell for whatever reason.
He's not letting it go. He's not
and he
pulling the
won't let
trigger.
it go to guys that are open in the offense, even when they're schemed open. So if you're not going to throw into tight windows, and you're not going to throw from the top of your drop, then you're virtually the same thing as Case Keenum. So sit out and let Case Keenum play because they're the same guy. Safe Baker and Case are the same guy, right? You need Baker, Gunslinger Baker, to be the difference maker. And if he's not going to be that, then you might as well play Case, let him get healthy, and let Baker play down the stretch. I'm not giving up hope on them. I think they can go beat the Bengals in Cincinnati this week. They seem to be kind of up and down. We'll see what happens. It'll be a good game. I mean, this is their first divisional game. They don't have to panic. They looked poor on offense. But Pittsburgh's defense does this to teams sometimes.
Are you advocating any trades? What do they need at the deadline? Will they do something?
I don't think they will do anything, but I would not be against trading Odell at this point. I am to the point where I'm not saying please go trade him because he hasn't done anything disruptive off the field and he's still being a good team player. But with one target, and you look at his target totals, and then you look at like Cooper Kupp has 90 targets with the Rams. It's absurd. Like, what are you doing? And so at this point, just get rid of him and let's see what the offense looks like without him because last year it took off without him.
Yeah,
So,
and I remember we had this conversation, and you brought up a great point when we were talking about this last year. I said it's nothing against OBJ, it's nothing against Baker. He's better when he's not on the field, but it's not even like I don't understand like why you're not
it's a
forcing it,
mystery.
but they're not even throwing it to him.
It's a mystery. And it really is. And there's a statistic out there. Him and Devontae Adams like lead the league in routes run past 5 yards, like 92% open on route.
Yeah.
So with that statistic and the lack of targets he's getting, try to explain that to me in an offense, right? It just makes no sense.
But he hasn't complained publicly like, "Hey, I'm not getting targets." Right? He's been a good citizen.
He has been a good citizen, and you can't say that he hasn't. And he's got to be fed up at this point. I don't understand how he wouldn't be. You almost wish he would go in and bang the table and say,
Yeah,
"Throw me
do
the damn
something.
ball."
Yeah, that's what because in New York there was such passion, and now I want to see him yell at someone on the sideline. I want to see him get me the damn ball.
Yeah. Instead, the worst thing you see is poor body language, and that just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, so you're still confident in this team? They still make the playoffs, correct?
I think they still have a chance to. I certainly don't feel the way I did about them a couple weeks ago, but I certainly think that at 4-4, the AFC is just the Wild West right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it is just nuts. With the injuries, with Henry getting hurt, and at 4-4, they're only a game and a half out of the 2 seed at this point. I mean, it's crazy.
There's no
And
dominant team in the
there
AFC
isn't.
at all. And I think the
So-
Patriots, after winning, I think the Patriots are now a playoff team.
Yeah, so Brown's schedule is weird, but if they could get a win against the Bengals this week, then they would get the Lions and then the Patriots, which I think are two winnable games. They could get to 7-4. I think is what their net focus needs to be before those two games with the Ravens.
Okay, so we're just going to close with this. A. Marie couldn't join us. She wants Mike Zimmer fired. I watched that game yesterday, and I can't believe how you have a young quarterback that Dallas had because Dak wasn't playing. And on the last drive, they didn't try to blitz him once. They just sat back and let him pick him apart. And then on offense, you have Kirk Cousins throwing 2-yard pass plays every time. It was a disgrace. Let's move on to the Jets. I told everyone that Zach Wilson sucks. What happens? Look who comes in. White comes in. They scored 34 points. So,
you're going to use this as a hit on Zach Wilson? Of course, I knew you were gonna. What an ass you are. That's completely inappropriate Zach Wilson slander.
13 points a game with Zach Wilson. This guy comes in from South Florida. No one even knows who he is, and they score 34 points, and they win. This is my new quarterback in New York. I've never done this before in my life, but I may buy his jersey if they win next week.
Hey, Central Michigan kid. Mac, he's a Mac kid. We support the Mac here. We do.
All right, Brad. You and I are 10-3. We're tied up. We both took the Packers. You thought I wasn't going to take them. Brad, real quick, about 30 seconds on this. How good was that victory Thursday night with the Green Bay Packers?
Oh, it was fantastic, and what a way to end the game. I mean, what a play by that corner. First of all, I don't know what the hell they were doing on, the Cardinals were doing. He definitely was blocking for a run play, most definitely,
it was total
wasn't he?
miscommunication.
Yeah, he was blocking for a run play, and but an incredible play by the corner. And it's interesting that Ron mentioned Jair Alexander because they're playing without him right now.
Right. Yeah.
And that corner that they took from Georgia, what a great draft pick. That kid is playing his ass off. He is.
Listen.
And so if they had Jair Alexander back, I don't even know what I'd say about them. I told you, man. I told you, your team, don't doubt them, man. I told you.
You know why? Because I said to my friend Andrew, I said I had an epiphany because I was thinking they got to win by throwing the ball 40 times. No, they don't. They just got to run the ball and keep those offenses on the sideline. All right, Brad, who you taking tonight? The Chiefs play the Giants. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Taking the Giants.
What? Brad, you're going to go down one if you lose. You know that, right?
I do know that. I don't. The Chiefs are a mess right now, and the Giants are hot off a nice win.
Okay.
Come on.
Who you taking Thursday? You taking the Colts or the Jets?
I'm taking the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts, too. All right, Brad, how can we follow you? How can we support you? When is your next show?
My next show will be on Wednesday and on Thursday at All Eyes on Cleveland. Busy week this week. Got to regroup. We're in the midst of AFC North play. Got to bounce back from that one against the Steelers and get one against the Bungles in Cincinnati.
This is going to make or break their season, all division games.
Yeah, lots of them coming up here. Got to get this one on the road. It's tough. They put themselves, they've really, what they have done is they've eliminated any room for error, Monte. Yeah, they really need to play really good football.
But the good news is they control their own destiny because if they take care of the division games, they win the division, they make the playoffs.
Yeah, and if you can get hot at the right time, and that's what you want to do is playing your best football at the end of the year. If you can get hot at the right time, then you can carry that over into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. AFC's wild. We'll see.
All right, Brad. Thanks. We'll see you next Monday.
Hey, great interview. Great guest. Good job.
By the way, great job making the banners for this show. Great job with that. Really appreciate you doing that.
It is my pleasure, and that was awesome. Ron was fantastic. So thanks for letting me be a part of it.
All right, thank you, Brad. That was Brad Ward. I want to thank Ron Pitts. I want to thank Brad Ward. I want to thank all of you. Make sure to support Nuts and Bolts Sports. Make sure to give us a thumbs up on this show. And in the immortal words of, who are we going to do today? What immortal words? Do I even have it here? I don't even think I have it. Yes, I do. In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.